This is great. I think I'm one of the fourth of today, right? And maybe the ninth of the week, Lori Wolf. It's been a whirlwind week of talks and lectures online and today in person. So I'm glad to be a part of that. Gardening Green Expo, as Mr. Kennedy and I were just talking about, it's been many, many years that Kennedy's has opened their doors, not just for commerce, but for people to come and learn about green initiatives, about healthy growing ideas, be it flowers and or food and herbs and good edible things that you can grow. So my name is John Belber. I work at Holly Hill Farm in Cohasset. I don't know if you've been there. We have a little table at the end of information about Holly Hill Farm. It is a very informative place to work because we grow and sell vegetables there, and we've been doing that for selling really certified organic vegetables and flowers and herbs for over 20 years. 1998, when I think was the first farmer. I came soon afterwards. And the farm had been some iteration of farming for 5 generations of the White family. So it's been going on since the 1600s. And there is good evidence and research that we've done to learn about indigenous Wampanoag who were definitely planting and growing there before the White family settled and built some buildings and plowed some fields and moved some rocks out of the way. But it is named in the town of Quonahasset, right, the long rocky shore. So we are very pleased to be able to see people at the farm learning and growing with us, to lead workshops, to lead tours, to have school kids, to have older folks, younger folks come to the farm to learn about certified organic farming. And then we also are able to get out and about too. So we've set up school gardens, we've set up community gardens. We've had a chance really to work with folks in different ways to better their own growing or to maybe source some good healthy food or flowers from themselves. So please feel free to interject with questions or snide comments or anything that you want to add to this presentation today, really on soil. So my talk today is a little bit on soil and the importance of soil. It's really the most important thing that we find that we encounter at the farm and at these satellite areas that we are finding and sourcing and amending and taking care of good, healthy soil so it can grow whatever it is we need to grow. So when we're at Holly Hill Farm, and we're starting right now, Claire Parkinson, 4th year nursery farmer, she's in there. She's got seeds all getting set in a row and in trays, broadcast trays, individual trays, 6-packs, 72s, 120s, all kinds of trays to get started. That's a potting soil, right? That's a potting soil that we are buying. We used to make it when I started. We are buying that from Vermont Compost Company up in Vermont. They make a nice potting mix. So when you're starting your seeds, and we're going to start some today, just for the sake of it being the first official day of spring, we want to make sure that that's a good, healthy, well-balanced soil mix. So we buy that in, we buy these large sling bags, and then we load them into the greenhouse trays, a tray like this one here. This is a 50, a 5 by 10, and we clean it up and get it ready, and I'll show you about what we do with seed sowing. So if you've been to a greenhouse, or you've worked in a greenhouse, it's really a very much controlled environment, right? You want to make sure that the soil is right for those teeny tiny seeds to get all the nutrients that they need as they begin their growth, be it arugula or tomatoes or peppers or delphinium or snapdragons. All these seeds need a well-balanced, healthy soil. And in that soil, in that tray, in that greenhouse, we're really controlling the environment in there. So you truly try to have, and they are plastic hoop houses really at Holly Hill. There are various amounts of glorified, like here at Kennedy's, glass and other plexiglass and other things that really allow that sunshine to come in. But you've got to control the temperature in there so it's not too hot, not too cold, Goldilocks, so it's really nice and steady. And your daily observation of watering, checking the moisture and such, so that you have as best success as you can with those seeds as they are getting started on their journey. And as we're doing that, and now the greenhouse, if you come to the farm, which you can do any day, dawn to dusk, You can see there's tons of green seedlings coming up. We're having an early plant sale in April. We'll have a later plant sale in May. The later plant sale in May is going to deal with the tomatoes and eggplants and basil, right? The more summer-sensitive crops in terms of not handling the cold. And then the early ones are going to be early seeds, like some kales and lettuces and chards and onions and peas that can handle the cooler weather, which is why they come first in the order of operations there. And all these seeds getting their start there, when we're setting them into that soil mix, and they're growing and adapting and getting set to go out into people's homes or to community gardens or to the world, right? They're going to need to be ready for that transition. So we're trying to build good, healthy seedlings. And to do that, at some point, we've got to open up the sides of the greenhouse to let the air flow in. We've got to open the doors to let more air come in. The fans are turned on. There's a lot of air circulation. That's part of that controlled environment that we're looking for. So these seeds can really get their, seedlings at this point, can really get their good, healthy start. And then before they go out into the ground or into someone's homes, if you so choose to buy them, we are going to work to make sure that they are hardened off and really ready for the elements. Because here's the first day of spring, I put some shorts on, the sun is shining. However, as you know, and this bears repeating because farming is all repetition, we're going to have cold nights and hopefully some warm days. We're going to have some rainy days, some excessive rainy days. We're going to have some chill. We might even have some more snow, which is really just cold rain that will fall down, right? And that all has to go somewhere, and those plants and all of these seedlings are going to have to adjust to that. So the reason why we're starting with cool weather crops is because of the fact that we still are having cool weather. And it can be so nice and so refreshing to have the sunshine and maybe up to 50 or 60 as it freakishly did a couple weeks ago. But that means that plant has got to be ready and adjusted to that if it's going to start living its life completely outdoors in the elements with wind and breeze and sun and hard rain and soft rain and all those different elements that are happening here in a New England spring. So that's the sort of the life of our seedlings, getting their start there and bringing them out into gardens or into people's homes so they can get started there. So that's it's almost specialized, right? Because we're importing that soil as these seeds get their start. Very often, as gardeners, and some of you can sort of raise your hands if you have a little bit of garden stuff at home. It could be a bush that just comes back every year. It could be a garden bed that you cultivate. It could be a planter like a pot right there, or a larger whiskey barrel type thing. Or it could be, 25 acres that you have in your backyard for your farming. All that soil space and in those different types of containers and growing conditions are going to be so essential to take care of and to amend so they can receive new plants, or they can be beneficial for the perennials, the ones that come back every year that are already in there. So I guess I kind of want to start with compost. My world has come to be very involved in compost. And when I'm making compost, I can do it very lazily and haphazardly, and I can do it with a bit more purpose, and so as to get a finished product. So right here, I've got a little screen, broken old screen here, okay? Different kind of gauge. This is a very small gauge, so only the finest of compost will fall through there. But you can do that little wider, but you're trying to get this to allow for compost to be sifted through. So here's some compost I dug out from a compost pile at the farm. We have tons of compost piles at farms. We have them at schools too, so people can think about what it is they want or could add into a compost pile. And even though Mrs. Sheehan at Hadley has said no to compost for a little while because of the mice and the rats that could be burrowing in there, or especially at the Hadley School, which is the very dear, wonderful school garden in town here. Hey, Rose. We are going to need to understand, and with the new construction there, the rats are probably having a field day there, but they're building a new combined school there. The rats and the mice and the rodentia are going to be there no matter what, and we sort of have to figure out how to deal with them. So compost can be a great buffet attraction for those four-leggeds. However, with good proper turning and care and tending, you can have productive compost. And it reminds me of seeing you, Judy, here. There's great compost. You can get your own compost bin to set up safe composting from the Hull Garden Club. Blake.
Is there a local place for organic compost? Even though I make my own, I want to I'm building a new shed, so I want to get it done. So there was Michael Blakey used to do that?
Michael Blakey used to. I still see him driving around. I don't know if he's making compost anymore. Kennedy's Garden Center, from which we are grateful for their hosting. And maybe I could ask a Kennedy's employee, do you have bulk compost out back?
We have it back this way.
Okay, any back, yeah.
Yeah, we do have it, yep.
And so you
sell it by the yard.
By the yard.
So half the yard, whatever. So
yeah.
we can fill barrels, or we can mostly fill pickup.
And not to put you on the spot, but do you know the source of that? Who brought that to you in large bulk? Was it Rhode Island? Was it Massachusetts? North Shore makes a lot of compost up there? Don't know. Okay, that's right. So compost is available at Kennedy's. You can talk to him if you'd like to get some compost. Any of the compost we make at the farm, we try to make it certified organic, and I can explain how that happens. It doesn't always come out certified organic, and as a certified organic farm, we have to keep records of that. But any compost you can make on your own, you can know the inputs and know the results so that you can safely and confidently put that into your yard. Certain towns, I live in Scituate, Marshfield, Cohasset, all these towns, and in Scituate, it's the Go Green on the Driftway is making compost, and it's great because there's a lot of yard waste out there, and people who celebrate Christmas have those trees you got to do something with, and not enough goats to feed, so it all can turn into compost, and Go Green does that in Scituate. Cohasset Transfer Station does that. You just got to figure out what they put into that compost to make it. Because when you're taking that compost and applying it to your garden, and hopefully mixing and integrating it into your garden, if there are chemical or spray residues from synthetic fertilizers in that compost material because someone brought a whole bunch of grass clippings from their Roundup yard, then that's going to be a problem for growing vegetables that you want to eat and consume. At least I find that a problem. I'm not going to address the Make America Healthy again. I'm just going to talk about good, healthy food that we can grow. And when that soil and compost is feeding your root systems, it's really important that you figure out what that soil is taking in. Again.
Does Vermont, the potting mix you use, do they sell organic compost?
They do. So we do sell shamelessly. I think there's bags over here of Costa, Maine, or somewhere, certified organic compost. The largest we have is a 60 quart, I think, at the farm, which adds up. But that is a compost that you can get to amend your garden. If you're starting from scratch, we can talk about this by emailing me or calling me up to figure out if you're starting from scratch with a new garden bed. You have an existing space or a brand new bed?
Both.
Okay, with the brand new bed, we use Blake as a sample here, you don't want to put just all compost in there, right? I mean, he's not going to do that, but one needs to have a well-balanced soil, which is why I'm here talking about that soil and how to get it to a state of well-balancedness. J.F. Price in Weymouth sells a combination of bulk, so they can either deliver to you, or you can go with your pickup truck if you have one, and they will load it up, the amount of yards that you'd like to get, of loam and certified organic compost. So they do a mix. They've screened it. They've got a mix. When we go build these school gardens, we will contract with them and ask them to come dump a load that we then load into garden beds. J.F. Price in Weymouth. So I can write down stuff later. I'm John at Holly Hill Farm, Jon. You can reach out to the farm and find out more information about where these sources are. I have a guy who has great lumber to build said beds. But for compost right now, it can start with an apple core, right? So in my house in Scituate, with no more kids there because they've all graduated and left, there's still food residue and scraps from coffee grounds and apple peels and cores and bananas and such, it adds up quite quickly. So to show you that I lazily will make compost, I'll take that bin out when it's reached its height in the kitchen counter, and I'll bring it out to a black circular bin, which Judy has for sale today. $60, $80 for a beautiful compost bin. They're great. The Darth Vader, is that what it's called, or the Earth Machine?
Earth Machine, but I think they look like R2D2.
Yeah, R2D2. Different Star Wars character. So I add those food scraps into that bin. When I'm adding it into the bin at home or at the farm, and when we're doing it in a larger way to make certified organic compost at the farm, I follow the recipe of 1 part nitrogen to 3 parts carbon. The nitrogen is all the food scraps. We have animals at the farm who are very cute and adorable. 2 of them produce manure every day in terms of the manure that we use as nitrogen into the product. Pumpkin the pony's 39. He still provides manure every day. Benji the goat, the donkey, he provides manure. Question?
Well, I have ATV.
ATV?
Yeah.
Great.
I live in Arizona.
Uh-huh.
On the mountain where it's snow.
Yeah.
And I go and pick up, we got wild horses, cows on the forest, and I scoop it and...
Curb your animal is a new meaning right now. Yeah, you're going up in the mountains and getting that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
And then I get a lot, and I put a big pile, leave it for 3 years, and then I...
Beautiful segue. Yeah, that is great. That's a free resource if you have an ATV. And the labor, not to
I'm
be,
the labor.
you're the labor, exactly right, and you are working for free right now. But all of that, sitting, as she said, for 3 years, that is considered organic matter. And sitting it, letting it sit for 3 years means that it has aged, and whatever pathogens were in there from what the animals consumed has passed, and you can use that as an amendment into your garden or your beds. It's still heavily nitrogen. So the point of making compost is to try to get sort of a well-balanced part of soil. So if we were to go on a walk in the woods today, which I thought about, we'd encounter trees and some pathways and some mud and things. And Frank White, who founded this iteration of the Certified Organic Farm, talked a lot about what the woods can teach us. And I'll never forget what you did leading 5th graders around the perimeter of that Hadley School to learn about who our friends and trees and animals are around the perimeter there. Into the woods, nature is doing phenomenal organic growing, right? They are growing trees, letting the trees grow willy-nilly, letting the leaves drop, letting those leaves not be raked or, God forbid, blown away by a leaf blower, and they're just sitting there on that forest floor. And that is good, rich organic matter, which also has the name of humus. Nothing to do with baba ganoush, but humus is that rich, healthy part of soil that needs to be part of your soil mix to have a well-balanced diet for your plants. Just like we're supposed to eat good, healthy food, and I love Doritos, I know I've got to get some fruits and veggies and proteins and calcium and other things in there. So we want the plants to have a good, healthy diet as well. So the humus or compost is an essential part of that. So I take that apple core or the bucket of things, and say I have a 5-gallon bucket. We used to go get pickle jar buckets from Maria's, and you dump that bucket of food scraps right into the compost bin if you have it, or you've built pallets in a circular open bin, and you can just dump it in there. There's an Eagle Scout who built a great chicken wire fence compost bin a few years ago in Scituate, and that bucket goes in, then you got to have 3 buckets of carbon. So what's a carbon source? Do we know a good carbon source that's free hanging around? Sorry? Newspaper is great. Yes, I've read about newspapers, and I love newspapers, and my father loves to read one every day. You rip that up to make it smaller. That's made from trees. That's great. Someone called out leaves, obviously, is a great source. Harder to find right now, given the fact that they're just beginning to grow on trees, the deciduous trees. So the farm gathers up a whole bunch of brown leaves in the fall. We actually have a contract with Rich from Glades Landscaping. He brings a whole truckloads of leaves onto the farm. We don't go into our woods and get them. We source them and find them. Also, because we have animals, the wood shavings are a terrific source of carbon, right? Wood chips are carbonaceous. They're full of carbon, but it's a much harder stick and twig, right? That's why people use them on pathways or playgrounds and things. So wood chips would be too much carbon. It'd be harder for it to break down when you're putting this into your compost. I know this is about soil today, and I tend to wax poetic about compost, so let's get back on track here. So this compost I pulled out from a pile, still very cold because the winter is just behind us. And I'm just going to do a little sample sifting here because all the compost all the ingredients that were in the pile at the farm are ready now for sifting. When I mentioned lazily, haphazardly making compost, that's when I am adding the nitrogen, add some leaves from the kitchen, and I just let it be, and I let it sit there. And to more actively and proactively create better, more productive compost, I need to get in there and turn that to give it air so it has aerobic so it can breathe, right? It's not anaerobic, so I'm going to turn and mix that. So some people set up 3 bins for their compost systems, which you might already know. One is to your add pile. Maybe you got one that's sitting and you're not adding to, just let that sit. Julia Child, let that recipe just sit right there for a little while. And the third one maybe is already finished and you can just, that's your take pile. So you can get creative as you'd like about rotating, because every time you're adding ingredients into your compost pile, you're changing the recipe a little bit. You're mixing it up because you're adding those greens and browns. So let it become compost. The one advantage of my haphazard compost that I make at home is that eventually, like the manure you gather with your ATV in Arizona and let sit for 3 years, is that the compost will just slowly shrink that pile and be more readily available at the bottom of your compost bin if you have it, or your compost bay. I remember visiting a teacher once who had a huge pile of leaves. Kids raked the leaves, and we actually had kids bring in leaves one day for it to help make compost. And those are those two, like the forest floor, right? Those eventually will decompose into a nice leaf matter. But here's the compost, which I'm just going to sift here as an example so that we can get some finished product to add into our new gardens this year, because it's spring and we can plant new gardens or start new beds. This is obviously not going to change the world here because it's just a little bit of compost, but we do this on a larger scale. We actually have an electric sifter at the farm where we're tossing in the compost that has some wood chips, has some sticks, has leaves, has cute little annoying informational plastic stickers, because the hardworking checkouts at the grocery store need a little bloop to find out the PLU. You know what that means? Price lookup. Yeah, exactly. So I love learning that. So it's a great way to keep those grocery store folks engaged, although the V-Mart is closing April 15th here in Situate. Okay, so good compost. You know that? Good compost. Star Market coming in? Yeah. Good compost coming out through here. There's some eggshells in here. Anybody have questions about what to add to your compost? I would stick with vegetables, vegetable products, things that were closer to living. I mean, a chicken has bones. It was living. If it's now become chicken parm. However, I would not put bones in there. That would be attractive.
Seaweed.
Kiwi?
Seaweed.
Seaweed. Oh, did I bring my seaweed today? I went to the beach this morning to walk my dog, not your dog, to walk my dog, Cash, and I got some seaweed. I must have left it in the car. Seaweed is nitrogen-based. It's available on the beaches, and I tend not to put it into compost. Is that what you're asking, if I put it into compost? I just use it elsewhere. I use it as a mulch. So we plant garlic in the fall. If we have this Garden Green Expo in October, November, I'd love to meet all back up with you, and we'll talk about garlic. Great crop, which I hope you're not getting too much of a sense because I use it every night, how good and healthy and productive that crop is by putting a clove in, and it forms a whole bulb. You pull it out the following July. I put seaweed right on top. I sometimes will put leaves on top of the seaweed. I'm really tucking that garlic in, and it is a delight right now with all that snow that's been shoveled or moved or melted. Garlics are sort of the first, like those snowdrops and other flowers that are on roadsides and next to sidewalks. They're coming up, and all these garlics are standing up, straight as can be, happy, pushing through the seaweed, pushing through the leaves. So I use it mostly as a mulch. And actually, because it's a good mulch, and because it has provided warmth and protection for the soil where the garlic is growing underneath, then I am very excited to pull the garlic out in July, having already snipped the scapes in June, which is a whole garlic workshop to talk about. And when the garlic comes out, there's still seaweed on the ground, and that can be terrific to then put into compost. Or I might move it aside, put some beans in, let the beans grow, keep the seaweed there as an existing mulch. It's slowly going to break down. It's slowly going to continue to add ingredients and beneficial nutrients into the soil.
Is it any kind of seaweed or?
I go and get any kind of seaweed, and I feel I'm doing a wonderful service to the beach community because I find all types of wonderful treasures. There's a great artist in Hull who has taken a whole bunch of plastic items that I've found, and she has made incredible art sculptures there. There's ropes. There's pretty safe, good things that I'm finding, but I'm picking up the trash. I don't treat the seaweed. I don't wash it. I don't clean it. I scoop it up. Sorry I didn't bring any today. It must be in the car. And I just put that right on into the garlic for a nice winter cozy blanket. You could do that now if you wanted to. It's just that if you put seaweed on top of your garden right now, you have to figure out how to make room for those seedling plants we talked about, or the carrots that you want to spread right into a row, or the radishes, because they're going to have a little harder time poking up through the seaweed if you put it down on your garden right now. But you could. I mean, you could put it down and then make room to put your tomato plant in May and leave the seaweed there, or your eggplant, or your pepper. So it's a great thing to add. And that adding, I'm so glad you brought up the seaweed, the adding that you're doing is regenerative. So Holly Hill Farm is trying to adapt and follow a trend of becoming not just an organic farm, but a regenerative farm. It sounds kind of cool, multisyllabic, right? Regenerative. You're adding nutrients into the ground, into your pots, into your plants, into your soil base, which is, as I said at the beginning, one of the most important things you can do is take care of your soil. Just like we take care of ourselves, hopefully, by watching what we take in. I want to see what the soil can take in and hold on to so that it can then feed in a healthy way the plants that we are growing. So since I mentioned seaweed, I will mention this here. I got a sheath of old straw, not hay from the farm today. Hay has seeds. Horses really jive on it. I want to get some straw here. It's nice and moist. Hey, Brian. It's nice and moist from the winter snow and such. But this too, it's a little matted right now, so I'd probably break this apart, and as I make a nice mess of the Kennedy's greenhouse area, it's good mess, good trouble, good mess. I'd break that apart and use that as a mulch as well to help protect and keep track of the soil. The soil that's there, right? When I think about putting mulches like a seaweed or leaves or some straw spread out there, it's another way to protect and help that soil. We teach a lot about the Three Sisters planting at Holly Hill and elsewhere, which is nationwide across Turtle Island here, and it's corn, beans, and squash, sometimes sunflowers or Jerusalem artichokes, also known as a sunchoke. And so when that corn is in there growing nice and tall, be it sweet or corn for popping, it's got beans wrapping around, and then the winter squash usually are spread out with their big wide leaves, protecting the soil and covering the soil because you want to take care of that soil. So it's a very efficient thing that we continue to learn from indigenous cultures, which is those three sister plants really work quite well together for their efficiency and for their care and protection of the soil. So any kind of natural mulches, I don't know if you still sell salt marsh hay. That's a great another thing to put down there. I'm just plugging Kennedy's as much as I can. Okay, so you can go source some as well.
Some people wash their seaweed, they rinse it
I've heard that, yeah. I don't think it's worth the trouble. Save the water for the plants. Yeah.
Okay, I have to go.
You have to go. Okay, cheers.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. She will drive and get manure for you on her ATV. In Arizona.
Is there like a local place where you can get red wigglers?
Red wiggler worms.
Yeah.
I think it's called the Worm Ladies of Charlestown, Rhode Island. You can buy bulk red wiggler worms. Making compost, they just come. I don't add them in. They just appear and they come to the pile, and you can dig down below and get red wigglers out. But I believe it's the Wormtown Ladies of Charlestown. Yeah, for red wiggler worms, which you could add into your compost or add into your garden. Ciao, Jill. And then that is going to be really beneficial because they'll continue to make room and they'll continue to dig and maneuver down underground so they can provide nutrients. Because it's their castings at the end. I don't know if any red wigglers came with me today, but it's their castings, their poop that is there that can is very rich and healthy and nutritious for your plants. Right there. Okay, so before we sow seeds, a couple things here. I grabbed this pot off my side porch here. The tag from Holly Hill Farm says Tithonia, beautiful orange Mexican sunflower, which reminds me, that's what I grew last year in this pot. It's very tall and beautiful. It's an annual, so it's done and gone. Here's the remaining, potting soil that was there when I planted Tithonia. If I was clever, I would have kept the tag from the previous year. Probably had a hot pepper, knowing my yen for hot peppers. Before that, I might have had some basil or a kale plant. This soil is gently aged, right? It's been depleted of nutrients, and it sat outside and got all that snow and all that cold, and luckily the pot didn't break. But all of that soil in here is slightly spent. And this is when I can add in some beautiful compost so that whatever it is I want to grow this year will just have a bit more addition of nutrients worked into that pot. Now, if you are a one garden pot farmer at your home or your place of residence, maybe you don't have, lots of fields and things where you can rotate and plant different things in different places every year. Maybe you have just a few pots right there. So another reason why adding compost is going to be beneficial, just to re-energize this beautiful soil right here. And anytime you have leaves, right, you can add those onto your pots or onto your garden beds or your fields or your planters, because that too, some will blow away, but others will just really compact and hold. So leave the leaves is such a neat Instagram thing that I've seen, but it's also just a very common knowledge of what they're doing on your soil growing space, because they're protecting and adding nutrients and giving home and habitat to all the bugs and insects and worms that live there.
So with the leaves, so in the fall,
Yes, it is.
I chucked in all of the beds, the soil areas with a thick layer of leaves.
Thick layer of leaves, beautiful.
Now I'm seeing that there are some plants that aren't quite able to get up through those, and I don't know exactly where they're planted. How much of it do you take off?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a time of spring and excitement. You want to see everybody coming up. I think anybody that's in the ground, any plant like daffodil or the garlic I mentioned earlier, they're in the ground, they can handle whatever is coming. I mean, I've seen snow on daffodil bulbs, right? Because we've had snow and the daffodils are up and they can handle that. So anybody that's trying to come up and come through the leaves or through the mulch that you put down is going to be able to handle it if you took the leaves off. So I'm of two minds. You can take some leaves off gently and let them just access more sunshine, because that's what's coming down on us right now from 6:15 in the morning till 7:30 at night. Blessed long days of sunshine. Some of it comes through the clouds, but usually it's daylight. Or you could leave the leaves here in springtime and just be a bit more protected there. It's like I guess a little bit of that hardening off I talked about in the beginning when I mentioned some seedlings and plants at some point need to go outside to get used to the changing weather outside, so you can begin to introduce them to the outside. So you can take a few leaves off, I guess is a short answer. But put those into your compost pile, or put them next to your compost pile, or put them somewhere else, because exposed soil, I suppose, this soil here is exposed because it's empty and open. I've just added compost to it. And I've done some gentle turning here with my hands, as you can see. The farmers are doing gentle turning. We're not tilling with a tractor anymore, because there used to be tractors pulling large implements and driving and have the little, overalls and straw hat and stuff. We're not doing that anymore. This tractor moved snow this winter. But research is finding that the tools and the implements on the back of a tractor were doing too much damage to that rich microbial life underground. So, plus many of them are gas ridden, and just like Chris's new electric chargers here, there's no need to have more gas going on there. So the tractors and the farmers are not tilling like that. We're just gently turning the fork. We're using a garden fork, or there's a broad fork that serves the same purpose, that you hop on and just slowly wake up that earth, because it has gotten a pounding this winter with the snow and the cold. And I don't want to walk in it, but I just want to gently wake it up and let it know that I'm needed to be activated and ready to receive some compost before planting, some seedlings, and some active growing. We do a lot of intense growing at the farm in terms of growing plants in a bed. Let's say an 80-foot bed has peas next week, probably direct sown peas. It's got the trellis fencing. Those tend to be phototropic. They go up and they can climb up along that fence and produce wonderful pea pods and edible pea pods, and then terrific, or maybe it's sweet peas that you don't want to eat, but are beautiful fragrant flowers. There's still room maybe on a 2.5-foot wide bed to put some radishes maybe right next to it, because radishes are quick. Radishes go down into the ground. They take about 30 to 40 days. You can have radishes while the peas are growing longer there. So we're using as much space as possible. I mean, there are more farmers growing more barley and wheat in these areas of New England to get us more breads and cereals and malt for adult beverages. So we are needing to use that land as best as we can. So when those peas are done and you've already pulled the radish and sliced them and washed them and eaten them, then we quickly turn that bed over to, let's say, celery or beans or carrots. So the soil beds at the farm, just like maybe a soil bed in a pot or a barrel or a planter, gets a lot of attention in terms of we're asking it to grow a lot of different kinds of crops, and different crops obviously take different nutrients from the soil. So anytime we're switching over, it's called flipping a bed, right? We take the peas out, we say thank you, we take the radish out, we go yum, 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 and then we put some compost in, mix that in. There's no need just to top dress the compost. The compost is a working natural fertilizer. Mix that in. Integration now, separation never. Get that compost right into the beds so that the next plant or the next seed that you sow will have access to those good nutrients in there. Yeah?
Any thoughts about hot compost versus cold compost?
And I love them both. In terms of application, putting it onto the beds.
No, in terms of, preferential, one versus the other.
Well, any hot compost that we make at the farm, which gets us back into making certified organic compost, we add the ingredients, we follow the recipe, we actually put it on a pipe that has a solar panel battery, charging a little boat battery or golf cart battery, and it blows air into that pile so it can be aerobic, so I don't have to turn as much to get that air in there. So that gets very hot. And in fact, the organic certification is to be 131 degrees for 3 days, which is hot to the touch. And but we can't use that on the beds. We don't use it on the beds. We take that off of the pipe where it got nice and hot. We let it cool down. So I think hot compost or just straight compost is going to be difficult for your plants. let it cool down, mix it in. It would be my answer to hot compost. But if you make hot compost and you get it certified organic, then you don't have to wait 3 years like this woman did in the front with her manure, with the manure that she gathered, to decompose over 3 years. Once it's certified organic and cooled down and maybe sifted, if you want to sift, then you've got a ready product. If you put ingredients and try to make compost and it doesn't heat up to the Massachusetts Bay State Certifiers Organic Compost levels, it sounds like MCAS all over again, right? Then you need to wait 120 days before you put that compost into your beds for food consumption. So any manures, things that did not heat up, you wait 120 days for that organic matter to be ready to feed the plants that you're growing. Okay? All right, couple more things here. We have till just before 2, right? Billy, we're doing okay? 1:45, okay. Plus it could be a whole lot of questions. I wanted to bring this cute little example right here of a pea shoot tray. And just to show you the work that plants do when they're in the ground, growing in terms of binding up and holding onto the soil. So you see that root base down there, right at the bottom there? These are peas. These are peas that were not given a chance to grow into tall pea plants with lovely sugar snap peas. These were grown with the purpose and intention of being very crowded together and growing up to be pea shoots, which we shamelessly sell at the farm. So pea shoots are a quick way to get greenery in the end of winter, early spring. Farmers came along, chop, chop, chop. There's one that's left over right there, right? Beautiful pea shoot. Micronutrients are very good and healthy when they're in their young micro stage. So the farmers came along and cut this. And I have a very vested interest in, once the farmers have come and done that, because we're a farm stand open once a week and we're going to move some greens and grow some salads and things, I covet these. So this is great organic matter, soil matter, to put into a garden bed. What do you think will happen to this? What's it put in the garden bed?
Golf.
Huh?
It'll be good for golf.
Good for golf, right? If I golf, to be good for golf. I can flip it over. I don't. I put it upright, and it'll grow again. So just like folks like myself needing a haircut, when you come along and give a haircut right here, it'll grow again, thank goodness. So it takes off and grows again. Farmers have radish shoots, sunflower shoots, all those crowded little seeds in there, as you can see them sort of, right? The little seeds having grown their sprouts and leaves, this will grow again. And plus, I love to not have blank soil at the farm. Most all the beds that I have worked with at the farm are part of this farm to food pantry program, which is this program I've had for about 10, 12, 15 years, where we're trying to grow food. I work with teenagers and businesses and corporate groups, whoever wants to come help me, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, all Scouts. We grow food and we donate it to food pantries. We grow some food and sometimes we cook with it. And it is a great way to get food and healthy organic food to folks who are not at Whole Foods or not at a farmer's market. So we bring it right to folks at food pantries here. So the beds I have that I work with at the farm that are devoted to farm to food pantry work, most of them all have leaves on there because I practice what I preach, but I can move those leaves aside and just get some greenery growing in there, as long as I know it's part of not my plan when I put carrots in there. But I'd love to have growth. I'd love the soil to be activated, so to speak, right? I want it to be engaged, you could say, with growing matter, not just open to the elements. One thing you could consider next August is putting cover crop down. Now, cover crop is sort of almost a given to the fact that you're done growing a vegetable or a flower or an herb that you want to cut and make a bouquet or consume or sell from the end of your driveway. However, cover crop is doing the job like the leaves and like straw and like seaweed of holding on to the soil. So it's more of a farm issue. I don't know many gardeners at home who put cover crop down, but you could. Cover crop, barley, vetch, rye, all of those are sown broadcast like those peas to cover the space, hence the name cover crop. And it holds onto that soil so there's no wind or rain taking it away. And we wanted to keep and protect that soil as much as possible. So a cover crop is another way you can find out to protect and take care of your soil. Soil's still working. I thought of it because of the engagement that I talked about. Soil's still working, it's just it's not floating away and not moving elsewhere. Another reason why I like a cover crop, and so most of that will grow into the fall, September, October, November, and then die back when the winter comes, which it does usually every year. The crops, what did I say, the cover crop? Oh, leaving plants. I mean, I could have brought you a pot from home that had an old dead sunflower stalk going this way and had a couple of, I forget what other plants I had at the bottom there, which I leave in the garden pots, or I leave them in the soil because, again, I want them to hold on to the soil. I can think of the birds who come by and visit. I get a lot of stares from people wondering why the garden is such a mess. And there are many homes and nice neighbors I live near who've got the immaculate, beautiful lawns that are mowed and remowed and then watered and then mowed again, if not fertilized. And I would prefer to have the soil be in place, holding on to plants for this year, for last year, for next year. And also think about the wildlife population that can come by and fly down and scoop up the last of the sunflower seeds as a winter meal. So having that diversity is okay. Having that diverse selection of plants at different stages of their growth and death could be beneficial to your yard, to your growing space, and to those who live near us. So just to show you, here's a tray of soil that was left out. As I said, it was a potting soil. Now I call it a spent soil because it grew things last year right there. I'm going to add some compost in there just to liven it up a little bit. Here it's not a potting mix anymore, but it's going to act like one, okay? And then another aspect which has nothing to do with soil, but yeah, this will work. You know what this is? Okay, maybe get more of them so you can see what I'm talking about here. Now you know what this is, right?
Time?
No idea. Not thyme. No, thyme is lovely perennial herb, and that is just greening up right now. And I can go out and cut a nice sprig to put on my thyme roasted potatoes. Good guess.
It's dead.
It's dead, absolutely. And yet, it is alive. Can I have your palm of your hand, since you called this what it is? Okay, I'm going to take a little old bud off of this plant, and I'm going to gently rub between my finger and thumb some things into his hand, and you can tell us what they are. You don't have to know exactly what kind, but what part of the plant is that? Not cilantro, no, that's coriander, the little tiny balls. Is that a seed, sir?
Yes.
Absolutely. It's a lettuce seed. So the lettuce from the Jenkins School, I think, I walked my dog near there, bolted, and no more lettuce was picked, and the plant put its energy into making, you keep those if you want, into, every seed is fragile. It formed flowers that were pollinated so that he and I could have this seed exchange right there. So I had those lettuce seeds to put into a new planting mix. So when I grow salad mix at schools or at the farm or at workshops or wherever people will let me, I usually sprinkle them right in a row. Yesterday at Jenkins, though, we were scattering them. We were broadcasting them all over the bed. So the whole bed could be filled with lettuces growing right there. Salad mix, right? Purples and greens and reds coming out. That's why it's called a mix, a Yankee Hardy blend, growing right up in there. I could, this is a whole bunch of more saved salad mix right here. I could just do one lettuce seed at a time Because what's that going to do? Not much? Oh, come on now. It's going to grow into a lettuce plant. Exactly right. But when it's sprinkled very close together, it doesn't have room or space to make a whole head, be it Boston or otherwise, head of lettuce. But I could just put one in here and see if that takes with a little bit of bloop, water so it can grow. So taking care of your soil is wonderful and essential. I think I'm near on time. Are there other things that folks have? Yeah. Thank you.
How large a pot would you need to grow, say, a cherry tomato plant? Or
Bigger than this. Most tomato plants, there are indeterminate that go on forever and determinate, which are not quite as on forever or not, have very deep root systems. And those root systems are feeding very heavily on the soil, which gets me to the answer of a larger pot. If I have a whiskey barrel with no sad whiskey in there, I would probably put one tomato plant in there.
Okay.
And that's about 18 inches wide. Plants, tomatoes like 18 inches, 2 9-inch hands.
how you had a sunflower in that? What,
I had Tithonia sunflower, yep.
okay, and how high did that grow?
Very high. Did very well there.
One for that pot,
One plant for that pot.
okay.
If I put 2 in there, would they grow?
They'd grow, but they'd have some competition.
They have a competition, and there's enough competition in the world, I tell you, man. Olympics. So if I have the space and time, then I can spread things out. Kale loves 18 inches between plants. Tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, they're heavy feeders. They're in the ground from, let's say, mid-May, with the warming climate, till November. That's a lot of time that plant is in the ground going yum, yum, yum. So if it has more space and has more room and less competition, then it'll do well. Okay? All right, Billy? I think we're good. Oh, she's got a compost bin. Yeah, nice, Judy. Excellent work. Thanks for coming. Thanks for shopping at Kennedy's and thinking green.